fifth, we're going to be going over the four different types of tissues. I'm going to go over them a little fast because I don't have a lot of time. 5 minutes isn't enough, but here we go. We have the epithelial tissue, we have the connective tissue, we have the muscle tissue, and we also have the nervous tissue. There's five like subcategories of the epithelial tissue, which is the ciliated, exchange, protective, transportation, and secretory epithelial tissue. Their structure varies depending, and their functions vary depending on where they are located. Ciliated is located in the respiratory tract and the fallopian tubes, and it helps advance or beat rhythmically, so it could advance certain substances throughout the tract. Now, those are pseudostratified cells, which means that they look like they're layered, but they really are not. The exchange epithelial tissues would be in the lungs and in the capillaries, and the cells are flat and thin, which are squamous. And this allows for exchange. Also, they have a leaky junction, which means that it allows the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide and different gases, but those are really the main ones that people are familiar with. Protective epithelial tissue is located in the linings of the mouth, the skin, the esophagus, pharynx, urethra, vagina. This has a tight cell junction, and this is because it protects us from the external environment. So it limits the exchange between internal and external environment. Transporting epithelial tissue would be in the lungs, in the intestines and in the kidneys. This allows for transport and exchange from the external into the internal environment. So it helps with the ions and the nutrients. So that's what this is for. And they have microvilli, and this is so that they could reach a little bit farther out into where they're at. Secretory epithelial tissue is located, sometimes it's embedded in other epithelial cells, and sometimes it's clustered into exocrine or endocrine glands. These are responsible for secreting hormones, and they also produce substances like sweat and saliva. Now, for the connective tissue, there's also five subcategories or five different types. There's the loose, there is the dense, adipose, blood, and supportive connective tissue. Loose connective tissue is located under the skin, so it's subcutaneous, and it's in small glands throughout the body. Its structure is elastic, and this helps as a reservoir for water and salts. It also helps keep like internal and external organs in place, and it attaches to epithelial tissue. Now, the dense connective tissue, this is like the ligaments, the tendons, the tissue that covers like certain organs and nerves. The structure is made up of like elastic fibers, collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and its function is for strength and flexibility. Now, the adipose tissue, adipose is another word for fat. So adipose tissue is found all over throughout the body. It's subcutaneous, visceral, you have the muscle fat, and you also have even fat in the bone marrow. That's called the yellow bone marrow. And this is, it has adipocytes. That's what what it's called, and it stores energy. Now, for the blood connective tissue, it's plasma. This has no fibers. There's nothing as far as fibers are concerned, but this type of connective tissue, it's all over the body, and it helps transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. So that exchange is done with that type of connective tissue. Now, for the supportive, it's the cartilage and the bone, and it suspends from the matrix, and fibers do run through this type of connective tissue. This provides strength and structure to the body, so your bones kind of hold up your whole skin. The muscle tissue is pretty unique. It has the ability to contract, and it's well supplied with blood vessels. The muscle fibers are long and slender, and it has proteins like actin and myosin. And this helps with the contracture of this muscle. Now, there's 3 types of muscle tissue, which is skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Skeletal is connective to the skeleton. Cardiac lines the walls of the heart, and the smooth goes that one is actually found in hollow organs. So like in blood vessels and GI tracts and the uterus. So any hollow organs, that's where they're found. Skeletal, I forgot to say, it's voluntary, which means that you control, in a sense, that kind of muscle. The smooth is involuntary, which means that it's working whether you think about it or not. The cardiac muscle tissue is on the walls of the heart, and this is has branching fibers. It has 1 nuclei per cell, whereas the other ones have either 1 nuclei in all or multinuclei. The contraction is not voluntary, so very important. Nervous tissue, brain, spinal cord, nerves. Now, the structure is made of neurons, which has dendrite cell bodies and axons. Dendrites send signals to the cell body, whereas axons sends signals away from the cell body. Now, this is important for coordination, for memory. It stimulates the muscle contraction. It was only 5 minutes. I hope I covered everything. 4 different types of tissue: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. And that concludes my video.